So I just want to have a little fun here. I've been reading a lot of the comments on my Bundesliga rant, positive, negative, and I've some really interesting stuff, honestly. A lot of people really getting in on it. A lot of people really passionate, heated about what I'm saying. And the thing is, ultimately, I love it. Like I said, I think I've said this before. Anytime that there's a chance to talk about football, I'm here for it. Again, users at home, audience, if you want to leave a comment, whether it's positive, whether it's love, whether it's hate, whether it's negative, I do not care as long as it's about football. I really don't mind it, because ultimately at the end of the day, what we want to do is we want to talk soccer, bro. We want to talk football.
If you really want to get our attention,
yes,
comment on our YouTube videos, because I basically read every single one of them. So we're aware. We're aware what you guys are saying. We hear you out.
This is actually a YouTube comment. Caught my eye, and I want to read a little bit of it and have a little response, have a little rapport, because I think this guy... his name is Darren Cernansky. So first of all, Darren, thank you so much for leaving a comment on the video. I really, really appreciate it. And so let's talk. Let's have some fun here, man. So the reason why I think I specifically picked out this comment is because Darren virtually encapsulates a lot of the idea of people who disagree with me. So within his one comment, he basically speaks for the thousands of people who disagreed with me. So I think this is actually a good comment to kind of encapsulate everybody's opinion. Yeah. And for me to actually have a good response here. I'll go ahead and read at least, I guess, the beginning of it. So first off, he says, wow, let me just say, I hope you read this comment, because this is one of the most ignorant and biased rants I've ever seen. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. And he starts off by saying this, and this is where I almost lose him a little bit. But he says, if the Bundesliga is a one-team league, then what is Serie A? You know, he says a zero-team league, because Dortmund and Leipzig would run Italy. And
let's unpack that.
And I want to dissect that a little bit, because what was the first thing that I said when I said, whoever criticized the Bundesliga, they always say this one thing.
Yeah, that the rest of the league is competitive.
Exactly. And what we have Darren here saying. Yeah. Saying that if you take out Bayern, the rest of the Bundesliga is one of the best leagues in the world. What's interesting is that if you really listen to my take, I actually didn't criticize the level of the Bundesliga. I criticized the structure of the Bundesliga. I criticized how the league is run. I criticized the mentality of the executives that run each club. One of the best topics that you brought up was how when are Dortmund going to be a big thinking club? And you could basically apply that to the rest of the Bundesliga. And it's funny because I praised Leipzig. I praised them. When they got promoted in 2015, I think it was, I was like, I said in my last rant, this team can compete with Bayern. That's love for the game. That's love for Leipzig. That's truly appreciating their skill. Yeah. And in my rant, I didn't say anything negative about the skill level of the Bundesliga. What I ultimately said was what needs to change in Germany is how the teams think. I'm not at all criticizing the level of play, because it's one of it is top 5 leagues in the world.
Frankfurt just won the Europa League.
Exactly.
There's good talent.
There's great talent. So for me, that actually was the majority of the comments that a lot of people left was like, whoa, the rest of the Bundesliga is really, really good. It's not what I'm criticizing. I'm criticizing the mentality of the clubs, how the league is run, because if you want a team to truly compete with Bayern, something in the upper echelons of the league has to change. Bayern are abusing the system. I did say that, but it's because they can. It's because that they've been doing that for decades, and so nothing's going to change in that way. But the only way it can change is if like a president of the league changes something. That's what I'm criticizing. I'm criticizing the Bundesliga structurally, not skill level wise. Yeah. So that's ultimately what I wanted to say.
I don't think it compares to Serie A in that sense, because the Serie A structure has shown that they can formulate 3 to 4 strong teams that can always vie for the title. We saw it last year with AC Milan winning the trophy, but not just that, Juventus didn't even get second. Inter Milan got second.
Right.
The ability to produce talented teams, that's not a question that Bundesliga can do that. But to produce a team that can win the title and that can structurally have a chance is non-existent.
Exactly.
And that exists in other leagues, man. That exists. That's the problem.
Yes, and the thing is, he tries to counter that by saying, well, if you put Bayern in Serie A, it would be the same thing. And he said us casuals would call it a farmers league. Now, first off, Darren, you don't have to start name calling. You don't have to do that. because you have no idea how much I love the sport and how much I've dedicated my time to watching this game. But the thing is, I disagree with that point too, because you can't use that argument realistically, because if you say Bayern were an Italian team, their philosophy would be completely different.
That's true.
They wouldn't have the same players. They wouldn't have the same budget, because the league is run completely differently. So you cannot you can have fun with it. You can be like, oh, let me pop Bayern into Serie A right now. Sure. But if you're actually having a realistic argument, you can't say that Bayern would run Italy, because they'd be called something different, and they'd have a completely different philosophy and a completely different history. And then to go back on that idea of how we called like Dortmund and Leipzig having small club mentality, he says, he's like, well, you can't say that Bayern just take all the good players, because Dortmund just signed the best young center back in the world and Leipzig just signed Raum. The thing is, sure, they're signing good talent, doesn't culminate in anything. So I don't care who they're getting. I need them to have a better team structure. I need them to compete. I don't care who they're getting. That's not what I'm criticizing. I'm not criticizing Dortmund's scouting. I actually think they have great scouting. The thing is, I'm criticizing the way that they think, the way that they're so willing to sell their best players as if they don't really mean anything. I mean, the release clause on Haaland was 60 million. They're basically begging for someone to buy him. That is if you think like Athletic Bilbao put $100 million release clauses on their players because they know that if they lose, for example, Iñaki Williams, they'll have nobody to replace him with. They know that. Athletic at least try to be competitive in Spain, and that's why ultimately I think La Liga is a better run league in that sense. I think Germany having a price tag on having a $60 million price tag on Haaland is disrespectful to Haaland, considering how good he was already projected to be. Yeah. Ultimately, that told me Dortmund were completely already thinking about selling Haaland the moment they got him, and that. I don't like that.
Yeah, whereas if he had arrived to Bayern wouldn't have thought about selling them at all. He would. That's the thing. Players stay at Bayern too. Dortmund is different, where they'll bring in players, but then they churn them out as well. They sell them out with no problem. Yeah. Whereas Bayern will get a world-class player and they'll keep him. And that's a huge difference maker when it comes to the overall direction of a league and deciding who wins a title, man.
Yeah. And it's funny because so many other comments were saying like, oh, well, do these guys not know about the 50+1 rule?
I heard about that.
And that is literally making my argument for me, because I'm criticizing that structure. That's what I'm saying. It has to change. Sure, Germany has done this for decades. That's why Bayern are dominating right now, because the structure, the organization of the league has not changed. And Bayern at this point in the modern era are taking full advantage from literally every perspective that they can. And all the other clubs are left helpless. One thing that Darren kind of finishes with that I actually slightly agree with, he says, well, the reason why Milan and Inter Milan have been able to win the leagues recently is because Juve have drastically dropped in quality. I do agree with that. But that's because the Italian league allows that to happen. Imagine if Bayern were bad. I can't.
I can't.
I
don't know what you're saying to me right now.
Exactly. Yeah. But I can see a world where Juve drop for a couple of years. I can see a world where this Milan team don't win the league this year. I can see that happening in France. I can see that happening in England, in Spain, man. I can see it all happening. I cannot see it in Germany the way the league is run today. To kind of end this so people make sure, watching Bayern's a privilege. They're a fantastic football team. They're incredible. They have some of the best talent in the world, and they're an incredibly well-run club. I'm not criticizing the way Bayern play. I'm not criticizing the way that Bayern ultimately exploit the league. I'm just pointing out that they do it, and ultimately it's bad for the German league. That's what I'm pointing out. Because like their scouting system, their academies, it's world class, and it's good that Bayern exists, because I mean a player like Jamal Musiala, he's going to be the next best attacking midfielder in the world, and Bayern have been able to pick that out and mold him. Yeah. It's a good club. The thing is, Dortmund could have done the same thing if they could have kept Haaland, if they could have kept Götze at the time, if they could have kept Lewandowski, if they could have kept Pulisic even, if they could have kept Jadon Sancho, Dembele. Man, Shinji Kagawa at the time. Mkhitaryan, man. Yeah. They've had some incredible talent over the years, but the moment Dortmund get them, they are looking to sell. And for me, that isn't a league. That I don't know what that is. Yeah. I don't know what that is. And again, maybe the Bundesliga actually is better than Italy. Sure, that's not what I'm arguing. I'm arguing that Inter Milan, AC Milan, Napoli are able to have the ability to compete with the rest of the better teams in Italy. And for me, that's a good league, even if the quality is worse. Shout out Darren, thank you so much for leaving that comment. I really hope you listen to the words that I'm saying this time, because I think you're disagreeing with something I'm not saying. You're assuming a lot, but either way, fun conversation, man.
Yeah.